Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast. I'm your coach, Kenny Marquardt. Today, I am joined again by Ammi Midstokke. We talk a lot about the process of success and just what it takes to show up and do the thing every day, even if motivation wanes. We talk specifically in this context about writing. Both of us have I have a passion for writing. She has a profession and a passion for writing. We both talk about how that just sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. And we also talk about the power of story and why more people should be telling theirs because it is impactful and motivating and helps other people get through their lives. So do it more. And that's a plug for you to come on this podcast. So if you're a member at the gym, get on here. Send me an email. Let's go. You can tell your story because it is important and it will probably help somebody else. So that's my plug. Hope you enjoy and see you on the other side. This should just be like we hit record and see what the fuck happens. That's exactly how we should drop a swear word in the first sentence of the podcast and we're live. We're good to go. Yeah, exactly. That is our podcast.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. What's your favorite swear word today?
By the way, you should get your kids out of the room.
Yeah.
Too late.
Too late now. It's too late now.
Yeah, actually, I think more or less I hit record because we started bouncing into a topic I wanted to cover with you today. That was how hard it is. And if you're listening to this, I want you to really pay very close attention. It's very hard for me to book people on this podcast because nobody wants to stand up and talk about themselves, or nobody wants to offer an opinion, or nobody thinks they have anything important to say. But that's what we're going to talk about today is that
why stories matter.
Yeah. Why exactly? Why stories matter.
And how they connect us to each other, especially when, like, in this time, I'm on a second cup of coffee, my friend. Here we go. Like,
See,
in
I'm
this
right
time
there.
where we keep talking about, like, divisiveness.
Yep.
When we tell stories, we find so much more commonality between us. Like, we all fall in love. We all watch our parents age. Many of us become parents ourselves. Like, all the stories that create life are common amongst us, regardless of who we vote for or even what our value systems are. And especially if our value systems are different, that we step into a space where we can have understanding and compassion for that value system versus judgment.
Yes.
And we do that through people being, like, open with their stories.
Correct. Yeah. And yet most people will I have the hardest time. So I work with a lot of gym owners. The hardest thing for me is to get people to stand up and say, here's what I think, or this is what you should, not this is what you should think, but like, here's what I think. Like that's a very challenging thing for people to do, even though they've made the decision to be in a place of leadership.
Why do you think that is? Either
insecurity is probably one. Imposter syndrome is another, which is probably related to that. Then so this is what we started talking about with this topic, but like I have stuff that it has to come out of me. And I don't know if that's a skill or inherent, but like there are things like I just have to sit down and write them down. And I don't think everybody has that. So that's an unfair expectation of other leaders or other people, is that they have that same trait. But I think they have a lack of the skill of making things palatable via letters and word.
Although on your podcast, it's not letters and words, it's just sitting here and having a conversation. So the reticence towards that, do you think that comes from not wanting to be on the camera, not liking their voice, not having a rehearsed plan?
Yeah, all of the above. And also the perpetual ready aim and never firing. Like they just want to plan and make everything perfect before they do anything in the public space. Whereas like I did a radio show this week with my mom. She called me like an hour before. She's like, you want to go on the radio? I'm like, sure. Like, what do you want to talk about? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, cool. This will be great. Like I don't know, whatever. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And learning, I think too, we have this impression that things have to be so polished, partially because our media presence, like Instagram, Facebook, all of these ways in which we make ourselves presentable, and Snapchat filters, all that BS. People have this like skewed expectation of themselves and how they have to show up, and we don't learn to just pause and be like, that's a good question, or to say, I don't have the answer, or here's what I think, or I don't know.
Yep.
Or I need a minute to think about what I want to say to that, or I won't answer that. All of those things are super valid in the context of conversation where people sort of have this belief that they have to speak. I was watching, NPR just did a piece and they were asking Bill Gates ex-wife, Melissa, whatever, what she thought
Melinda,
about.
right? Yeah.
Like she's on, she's got her headset on. She's sitting there. She's like one of the Globe's like most active philanthropists. And what they want to talk to her about is that she was married to yet another rich creep.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching her, and she's like skirting around the issue instead of just being like, I don't want to answer that.
I watched this. I cringed to that whole, and I felt, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
like,
not a position I can relate to at all, but I felt the same. Yeah, exactly. I felt the same way watching it.
Just say like, I have all these resources and all this intelligence and like all of this possibility, and you wanted to talk to me about a man I divorced? Like, really? Is that the best use of our time right now?
It's salacious. Wow, that's, I mean, man, you open up your thing of choice on your TV, and that's 90% of what it's just salacious, weird nonsense, right? Like I don't know what it is, but people feel better about themselves when they can, I don't know, hear about everybody else's shitty experiences, I guess.
Potentially, or it's just distraction. It's just
or that.
distraction.
Yeah.
So my question for you too, like with the podcast is, and the reticence of people to come and just talk about stories, do you think they would, if you just gave them the opportunity and like had a sign up sheet there and let them list the topic, or you gave them a topic, or had some sort of security of like, what's your job? Tell me about your job. Like some sort of thread that they could follow that felt safe, would more people be inclined? I still don't think so. And then again, that's not a cynical perspective. I think I've just experienced the perpetual shyness of most people. Because like, again, they think they don't have anything special to say. Like that's the most common refrain is like, I don't have anything I'm not special. Like my story's blah, blah, like whatever it is. And they just don't think they have a different or new perspective to share with the world, or just they're not interesting. And everybody's been interested. I've not had anybody on here that has not been interesting. And I'm not saying that just because where you were like,
yeah, where I'm dragging this thing. Well,
that was a miss. Well, you actually are a boring human.
We usually do 8 minutes of this. Like we've hit the cap. Sorry. Time to go. No, everybody's got, and that's what I started a coach internship at the gym on Wednesday, and there was some conversation around one of the people in the session said, I'm just really afraid of like messing this up or not knowing the answer. And one of the slides I had in my presentation was the Dunning-Kruger effect. Are you familiar with so like the more, like in the beginning stages, you know nothing, and you know that. And then you learn a couple things like, I know everything. And then the more you spend time with this, the more you're like, I don't know anything. Yeah. And I'm okay with like, that's cool. Like there's like a lot of confidence that comes with, I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah. And that relates back to the same thing with helping others, is that you and you're best equipped to help somebody who is maybe just a little bit further behind you on the trail. It doesn't mean you need to know everything, but you can look back and say, yeah, I know, I've been there. I know what that feels like. This is weird. This is challenging. And that's more powerful than all the exercise science, all the nutrition, anything you could ever learn. Just being able to relate to somebody and say, yeah, I know how that feels, and here's what I did to get through it. That's awesome.
And it doesn't even have to be these like vulnerable exposés of someone's journey, right? Like right now you're terrifying me. Like I've been there. Where? What are we talking about now? Rehab? It's okay.
Okay, yeah,
we don't have
fair.
to talk about rehab. It could be like somebody's knitting hobby, or
totally.
You know who's interesting that I really like? I think her name's Lori. She comes to my class at 9:30 sometimes, and she is a lovely older woman, and she plays music. And I have a banjo teacher who is her music teacher, and she plays maybe the mandolin. And a lot of times, like twice a year, we get together with all of his students, and they all can play instruments, and I'm just sort of like beep bop. Like I embarrass myself so much every time because everybody there practices more than I do. And I'll go back year after year now, and I'll be playing the same song, No Better, and Lori will be there and just like, I swear to God, there's 20 strings on whatever her fucking instrument is. And she's just like her partner. And that's an interesting story to me, like how difficult it is to learn an instrument like that and then be learning it well later in life. What is why aren't we just talking about those things? It's not necessarily these like vulnerabilities or expert. It's just like human existence.
Totally.
And those things matter.
Yeah, absolutely. But so in terms of what we kind of wanted to talk about today was, so as a writer, you're a talented writer. I hope that's a comfortable thing for you to take as a compliment. But Was that an always thing, or did you have to develop the skill?
My God, let's go. I have been a writer since I learned to write pretty young, and my parents, they had some different avenues of discipline. Some of them were violence, and one of them was writing sentences. So some of my early, and we were homeschooled kids, right? So basically, instead of like actually homeschooling us, you'd get like 100 times of "I will not go sledding before doing my chores."
Excellent.
That time I ran away for like 15 minutes.
Did that add another sentence to your
And will not run away until, yeah, I ran away for like 15 minutes, and I came because my mom was being lazy, and I was outside peeling logs, and I was mad about it. And my mom was like laying inside with a romance novel pretending to breastfeed. I say pretending to breastfeed because my sister was adopted, so my mom couldn't breastfeed her. She was just laying in bed. And I was like 7. And I remember marching in and being like, I am not appreciated around here. I'm out in the snow peeling these fucking logs, and you're over here with like Danielle Steele, okay? Like,
wow.
So I ran away in the snow in the middle of the woods. Like, we had just moved here from California. It's like 1985. We're living in a camper, no power, no skills, and nobody comes after me. It's just sort of like,
well, that's a good move. Not gonna lie.
Find her tracks, you know. It's not snowing heavily now, and I didn't make it very far.
Yep.
And when I came back, I remember coming back and marching back into the camper. You know, like toddlers when you walk in, and my mom's still reading her book, looking at me, and I was like, "Did you learn your lesson? I'm back. And I'm going to go peel these logs. But I hope you understand the situation now." Nope. I just got fucking sentences. So that's how.
Okay, but that's good. I like this. This is like one of those connected dots of like the formative experiences that you may not understand while they're happening. They all turn out like just, happy endings, of course, all the time.
Exactly.
No, nothing to sort out.
And why I probably still have a style of like redundancy and repetition in my writing. It's real hard to break that foundational skill.
That's great.
Yeah, so I was a homeschool kid, and I always wrote, and I was homeschooled in the sense that my parents gave us a library card and were like, probably should go figure out how to educate yourselves. And read a lot, always wrote. My neighbors gave me a manual typewriter when I was like 9, and boy, that was heaven. I just got a new manual typewriter, which I'm very excited about. I know. I wrote a story about it being my off-grid backcountry laptop. And it's this heavy, like, steel Italian thing, and bear deterrent. So it was instructions about how to like take it camping, and if a bear comes, to spin around and like launch it at the right time. So I've always written, and in all of my life, there's I have journals from when I was 9. They have the worst poems in them. They're all like poems about my horse or what a dick my brother is, and as one does.
Yeah, of course.
And then I started writing more and more professionally in my 20s, always, when blogging was popular, anytime something needed to be written for whatever company I was working for. I did my master's degree in business, which involved a lot of writing, and always did creative writing throughout that process, and then started doing some more adventure writing and food writing. Had blogs that were popular in the time of blogging. And those connections and the success of those things led me to being invited to do things or seeing opportunities and then pursuing those opportunities, like chasing racers in the Patagonian expedition race, where you have to have a certain level of athleticism and writerly ability, and you have to be able to have those things at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unique.
Yeah. And so that started getting my name out there more. And it was clear to me always that I was a writer and would be a writer. And when I moved here in like 12, 13 years ago, I pursued magazines and newspapers right away and just said like, hey, I'm a writer. And sometimes you write for free for places. Yep. Also, people will take advantage of that a lot.
That was the initial advice you gave to me, actually. I started
Don't write for free. Yeah. I mean, you can if it really, like, it matters to you to be in a place. Like, I have a really important essay for me that is being published in a literary journal that is of substantial, reputation, and they don't pay. But Sun Magazine, also a substantial reputation, and they pay $200. So like what matters more to me is that the piece gets out there, not that I make money for it. So a couple years ago, I sold my nutrition clinic and just said, I was at this place where it's like, what do I want to do most? Do I want to keep straddling these two lives? Or is it time to just step into writing? And at that time, my book had come out, and I was writing quite a bit for the Spokesman Review. I'm a columnist there, which is great. They're a fantastic paper out of Spokane, Washington. And that's really, so for 3 years now, I've just been a writer full time. And it has far exceeded my expectations in how I get to approach my life and how I get to support others in storytelling. Because I don't just write. So writing is my main gig, but I also do developmental editing, which means somebody comes and they have an idea and they're like, I have this idea for a story, or I have written a story, or it could be an essay, and they're like, but I don't know if it's ready to take to a publisher or to try to find an agent. And then I sit down with that person and say like, okay, well, here, this character isn't developed, or what's the point of this story, or this chapter isn't pulling the story along. And then, so I always have a couple of developmental editing clients, and then I do about 1 to 2 retreats a year. And that is where like the heart space of the writing comes, because I'm totally on a tangent here. You can
I love it. No, it's great.
I believe, and this has been my story or like my experience, is that stories connect us.
Yes.
And they are where we find resonance with each other. They're how we process things like shame, where other people can be like, oh my God, I had that experience too. It's okay. It's where people can reflect on their own experience and have their own growth, regardless of how similar or dissimilar it is. Maybe it's a dissimilar experience from yours and they want to respond. Like I wrote this week about how I don't know how I'm feeling unless I check the data, because I'm like super reliant on my Aura ring.
Mm-hmm.
If Charlie says, how did you sleep? I'm like, I don't know, I haven't checked.
Hold on.
Yeah, like my run doesn't count unless it's tracked on Strava. And then I'm always judging myself. Was I faster or slower? And like without data, nothing is real anymore. Somebody wrote back, and they are blind and hard of hearing. And he talked about, he was an old guy, and told me that I was dancing very close to the edge of curmudgeonhood.
Nice. That's...
And
wow.
Told me about like how much he relies on technology to have a full and thriving life experience. So like a totally different experience than mine.
Yeah.
But not only has it like been a really great argument for technology, it also like acknowledges that these two truths are in the same space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the teaching component, and that's what I was talking to you about, like coming and chatting about, is my favorite thing. I love writing and getting letters from people, but what I really love is when somebody comes along and they're like, I just journal a little bit, and I invite them to a retreat to be guided in that, and they blow me away. Like the best writers are people who show up and they're like, my genre is email. And I'm like, cool, let's break it out then. And watching them unfold and hear and recognize in a group environment that 1, story matters, and 2, they have voice, and 3, like the voice and story component being released and disseminated is how we connect, and it's important to the human experience.
Totally. I find it to be so empowering, and I can see what you mean. I actually did the same thing at the coach internship thing, where I said, this is like the magic for me is empowering you guys to now empower others. And like, that's a super selfish, dopamine hit for me to think about, oh, cool. Like I started this journey for them, and now they're helping these people. Maybe they help more people. Like, again, it's just what you said in terms of like story connects us all. And I think story empowers everybody, and story brings relatability and authenticity and vulnerability to the world, where again, like with the polished nature of social media and the ability to edit and all, like it just makes everybody feel like they're alone. And especially in their experience, that when somebody says something in a way that resonates with you and realizes like, oh, sweet, I'm not alone. Like there's so much fucking power in that.
And I steer away, not to challenge you, I steer away from the word empowerment, Because empowerment suggests like we have the power and we're going to choose to give it to someone
Okay.
in a sense. And so I try to think more of it as like stewardship,
Yeah.
or a facilitation in a lot of ways. And I think maybe because like the term empowerment comes a lot from like a racist background of being like, oh, we need to empower Black people, which, maybe we did steal some of their power agency for generations, but not suggesting that like we have the power, because the people with the skill, the people with the writing, the people who have the story, they also have the power.
Totally.
It's whether or not like, how do we steward them to like seeing that and choosing to open it and unfurl it and see it for what it is.
Yeah, I'm not giving anybody any of my, like, I think it's within them. So maybe I'm using the wrong term.
It's a word that we all use. It's been a thing that's been on my mind lately. When I say empower, then I'm like, well, wait a second. That suggests that I have the power and I don't.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that's not what I mean, but you're right. I think you're probably, your vocabulary usage is accurate and mine is probably faulty. But it's a matter, and I think that's where the story part comes in so strongly, is realizing that nobody's, I always want to say nobody's special, but we're all special. And that, like, if you've considered, because I can talk about myself very explicitly, and that's comfortable, but like, I've never felt like I'd belonged in the roles that I've just said, oh, fuck it, let's just see what happens. And if I pee my pants on stage, then so be it. Like, that'll be the last time I get on stage, and it'll be a funny story someday. But I'm going to do it anyway, even though I don't think I have anything worthwhile to say. And, people have to sit through this hour, and then they'll go on with their days. And sure as shit, like, it's been good, and I get invited to do more. And I can say that about damn near everything. And I think that that's important for people to know that, like, it wasn't like I had this intrinsic, I was born to do this thing, or that I had this anointedness, which is not a great word, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there was something that came down from the heavens and said, you can do all these things. It was more just a matter of like, fuck it, let's just see what happens. And I think of letting people know that that's how we all feel is great.
And then that relatability. And I'm thinking too about what you're saying about dissemination. Like you disseminate this experience and this knowledge to the 12 people in the room, and then they go and disseminate it to others. And that is how change happens. That's how change happens. And what's nice,
for better
about
or worse,
that,
by the way.
Yeah. What's nice about that is people have the agency to choose what that change looks like. And maybe that's a little bit of a difference from like empowerment. It's more like having people see their agency, and also like acknowledgement that the thing, whatever messages they've been told in their life, are maybe just messages that are other people's hanging out here. Somebody asked me at the gym yesterday, Aaron asked me if I got paid to write. I was like trying not to be a dick, because I was like, yeah, I fucking get paid. I get paid well.
I'm a prostitute, not just a whore.
Yeah, like,
I'm not just doing this for fun.
But my family has asked me the same thing for years.
Oh yeah, same with me at the gym, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
I've been asked, what's your real job, for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Like, and when I had my nutrition clinic, my mom, I remember one time, was telling me she just thought it was a hobby. She didn't think I was going to do it as my job. And I was like, but what did you think was paying my bills these last years? Like, because I know you fucking haven't, like, and then my brother and my father have asked me multiple times if I'm getting paid for my writing. And what really bothers me about that is the assumption is because I have a husband, that my husband pays for everything. And people are like, oh, that's so nice that you let your wife stay home and write, living her dream. Yeah. So the other thing is, like, it doesn't have to be that for people. Like, writing and storytelling and jumping on the podcast doesn't have to be that it's someone's career. It's definitely my career and has always been my dream. And so a long time pursuit of making that happen. But like you said, there are things you need to just get out of you. And people can write for the sake of creativity and for the sake of process, the sake of sending really good emails or drafting fucking great breakup texts.
That's a good service. That's something that, it could be.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised I don't get more requests for that.
Where's the line for you? Like, was that a comfortable transition to go from hobby to professional, which I don't know if that was a conscious decision, but like once it becomes how you put food on the table, there's a different relationship to it.
Yeah, a different level of hustle.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. Have you read The War of Art?
Yes.
Stephen Pressfield. Yeah, I really like the book. I don't know.
Yes.
What's your opinion? But that's like you have to get up and do this thing. It's your job.
Yeah.
You get up, and that's a bit of a segue into a different point. But it is like you don't get a choice anymore. It's not whether you wake up and feel like writing. You are now being paid to do this, so you have to get up and exercise.
Get up and do the thing, and not only that, but you have to get up if you really want to be. If it's your job and you have a path to it, you need to be able to perform accordingly. And that means you can't write you can't just scrape by. And there are places where you can scrape by, but writing is not one of them. I mean, maybe if you're a technical writer or something where it's just like, I just got to gut out some technical writing, but that's not who I am. I'm a columnist. I have a brand and I have to be creative and I have to keep the paper and its readers satisfied. And that's only one of my writing avenues. So I think that for me with the clinic, it was many things came together to form that decision. And some of them were the success of my book and realizing that if I don't, now I'm at a cusp of either I step in and chase this momentum that I've been building for years and take that risk, or I am going to be stuck at this level because I literally cannot write more. I don't have more creative energy in me while I'm taking care of patients and running a separate business. And so it was always in my 5-year plan. And I had jumped ahead about 2 years or so because of the timing, because we were going to be building a house. And I was like, I could save so much money by building my own house and having so much writing fodder from that, because you have to live in order to have something to write about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I think my work in building the house probably saved $150,000.
Yeah.
And so just that right there is well, that would be my income.
Yeah. Well,
let's just turn that into income and think of it that way, and left me with much more creative space for writing than what was necessary in my clinical life.
And material, holy shit. Like you said, that's, you probably have a lifetime of stories and stuff that you can tell for, so.
Oh my God, all the fucking carpenters that would come in here and be like, why is this woman talking to me? And I'd be like, because I own this project that you're on. So when I say drop the door a quarter of an inch, you better fucking drop the door a quarter of an inch. They were all going to Charlie to complain to him, what, why is it the tile guy showed up in his office to whine about me? And I was like, you tell him to turn around and talk to your wife.
You deal with her.
Yeah. I forgot to mention the expense of marriage counseling at the same time. So you got
which
to calculate
also,
that in.
Yeah, this is your whole life I hope your accountant agrees with this. Your entire life is a write-off. Everything that you do is an expense. Yeah.
Yeah. So those decisions, and I think you kind of just going forward and manifesting the thing, go out there and do the thing and open doors and then decide which ones you want to walk through. Mm-hmm. And I think having a certain level of trusting yourself in a way that's acknowledging what your skills are and knowing can I hustle if I have to pivot and do something gross, I don't know, write for Wikipedia or something. Well, Wikipedia wouldn't even be bad. Write for Expedia, write for a travel blog.
Yeah.
If I had to do something like that, would I do that? Where is my line? And it became pretty clear that for me, I wouldn't do that kind of writing. It would be more likely that I would go get a corporate job with my MBA than sell my creative soul to write words that weren't in alignment with what I see the purpose of writing for myself. And so far, it's worked really well.
Yeah, was it a chicken or egg thing? You know what I mean? There's a bit of that, your self-determination of where you're going, and also, you know what I mean? The momentum that was created by not allowing yourself to be distracted or hoard out for something that you didn't believe in, had to have kind of expedited the process. Where I think some people would see it as a way to make it work, but. It's once you burn the boats and you're decided this is what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, then It tends to go faster.
Yeah, then you better learn how to swim.
Yeah,
Although, not that I want to compare myself to Matthew McConaughey, but I'm sure you read Green Lights.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, and remember when he's talking about like those years where he decided he was typecast and he didn't want to do any of the stuff that they kept wanting him to be, like a shirtless beach boy, and he was like,
Yes.
making babies and eating mushrooms and like, no, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy. And he waited until he could starve himself for Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh yeah.
And that like really resonated with me. And I think I listened to that right around the time I was doing this transition. And it didn't like inspire my transition, but I think it definitely validated, and this is the power of story and writing, validated for me, like, it's okay for me to say, like, I don't want to do that. I want to do this, and to put all my energy into this.
How was that challenge? I'm sure it was challenging, but in challenging in different ways. Like, I think you're either, it's maybe not one or the other, but there's a spectrum of like selling your soul and then being financially comfortable. And that's probably too black and white. But I think that what you did probably looks easier because you're like, yeah, of course. Like, why would you not just do what you believed in and fight the good fight forever? But it must have been challenging. Or was it?
No. And
Cool.
I think I'm kind of a unicorn that way, like partially because I grew up, as we have learned, impoverished and feral, free range. And so I am just kind of fucking plucky. I'm just kind of like, it'll work. It'll work.
Yeah.
My husband, on the other hand, terrified. And so I think, but he's also very supportive. So he's just like, he will much inside, he might be like, oh my God, what are we doing? And on the outside, he'll be like, go, baby, I believe in you. And so I think there is, and to give Charlie full credit, like I would not, had I been a single mom, as I had been prior to Charlie for so long, I would not have made that decision. I would have had to wait until Ben went to college, probably. But I would have done it after Ben went to college still.
Yeah.
And so there was a reality that I was enabled to have some security because my husband had a job and was employed. So even if I had less income, it would be okay. I calculated all my income at that point and made a budget and was like, I can do this and I know it's going to grow from here. Like this is me doing 2 jobs right now. And if I set one aside, I know this one can grow. And these are going to be my expectations. And some of it's slower. Like you have to do a lot of work in order to, like when you write a book, if it's going to make any money at all, books are not really great money unless you're a New York Times bestseller or David Sedaris, who is many times over a bestseller. Your book is like a lot of effort out front and no money. And then in the end, you might get a little bit of money, but then it becomes passive income. And so I don't, because you've written a book too.
I contributed to one, yeah.
Yeah. And does that make money? Let's talk money.
No, I mean, not for me. There was one main author, the owner of the company, and that was back to a little bit to the transactional nature of a professional existence, where you can't just do everything for free. That was unpaid. There was an option to get paid. It was like, hey, look, we can either all split the proceeds. You're all going to get a check for like $37, or we can just donate it back in to buy more books and then distribute them more for the ultimate thing, which we give those books away for the company they contract for. So then we can have more mentoring opportunities. So I think the point I was trying to emphasize is that it doesn't necessarily need to be monetary in transaction, but you should be identifying with the reason that you're doing it and not just be like, oh, this is a cool opportunity. I'm so lucky to be able to write for this thing. Holy shit. There should actually be I don't know. It should be a means to an end of some kind, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like for what you're doing, what I know about your own creative process and how you're disseminating information, it becomes, those things are all bolsters for like what else you want to do for public speaking and being like, my name's on this book, I've contributed to this publication, and then more people come and ask you. And it's like, if somebody's goal is like, I really want to write a book and I see you're on this book, then you become a source of information for them as well to be like, okay, well, here's how it worked and here's how it could be monetarily. Here's how it could support your other avenues. I have a client right now who is going to write a book. She's writing a book, and she is a professor of communications, fantastic speaker. And she's like, I need a book out there because I have something to say, but also what my true passion is being a public speaker. But having a book out there that is like part of her reference for her public speaking is an important stepping stone for her. So the book isn't going to make money potentially, or that's not why she's doing it, but it still matters. And to be able to point people to a resource and say, like, you get me for an hour today because I'm talking about this thing, but this has like all this other background information that you can refer to. So there's so many different reasons to write.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I kind of pulled us away from the monetary. You said, let's talk about money. If you're, that sounded like something you're excited about. Let's scratch that itch if you want.
I'm really comfortable talking about money. And that was sort of one of the questions you were talking about as far as like, why, how do you budget going from having an income to changing your direction?
Oh, yeah. And
I don't think, so I grew up poor, so I'm not afraid of being poor. And I kind of sound a little woo-woo here, but like, I don't really care. And I just believe, and this has been true in my life, that if I need money, I'll make money. And maybe it's because I have a breadth of skills. Like I have, the master's in business. I have a nutrition degree. Like I can pivot and do all these things to hustle. Like I'm a hustler.
Yeah, for sure.
A hustler.
Yep.
And so I have this belief in the back of my head that when and if money's in need, that I can pivot and do whatever is necessary to pay the bills. And so far, I haven't had to change back to anything else in order to pay my bills. In fact, my writing income business more than tripled in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and I think that the relationship of that whole thing that you just described is like, I think that really bears a little further exploration, in that both, like, you have to kind of burn the boats to do the thing, because you're never going to be very good if you're, and I'm pretty hard on part-time, like split like fitness coaches, not hard on them. Here's the reality. If you're trying to sell real estate and coach people in fitness, like where you're serving too many masters, you're going to suck at both of them or be mediocre at both of them. If you are able to full-time focus on serving your clients, like you're going to be infinitely better, but it also requires you to treat yourself as a professional and charge accordingly. And that's uncomfortable for people.
And I love that you brought that up, because that was really my experience too, was like, now the other thing is holding me back from what my heart space wants to be. And I'm not recommending that people just pitch their incomes to go pursue their dreams, right? We are realistic. So we have to be able to critically analyze our skills and our needs.
Yeah. And you said that, by the way, to acknowledge, you said you created a budget. You said, this is what I'm going to like.
Yeah.
You did the thing, so.
I had a business.
But I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Let's not.
Yeah.
Everyone
and
quit
I was
their jobs
already
today.
Established. But I will say what's been really cool is, like, you said something early. You said you're a talented writer, which is nice, right? I am a talented writer. I have been gifted with writing and communication ability, but I do not have formal writing training. And so stepping away from my clinical practice, now I have incredible abundance of like capacity to learn, to get into the technical skills, to take that gift and turn it into like craft development. Yeah. Which makes me a much better teacher. And then teaching makes me a much better writer. And so what you're talking about, like when you throw yourself fully into something, then you can embrace it in a way that really makes you the professional in there. And I think that, you were talking about imposter syndrome. Sometimes I think that the imposter syndrome is validated in the fact that we're spreading ourselves too thin, and we know we have an inherent sense that we could be doing something different and better. And sometimes it's just the voices in our, it's our dad asking us if we're actually being paid. And we're like, should we be being paid? My dad asked me, I told him I have another book coming out, and he said, well, what is it going to be? And I said, oh, it's a memoir. And he said, oh, why do you always write about yourself? I was like, well, 'cause Dad, I'm fucking funny. People pay me to write about myself, and I'm relatable. Like, thanks for your support. And so those kinds of messages, they come in, but we just have to ask ourselves, like, what's our truth around that?
For sure. Yeah, and I think that again, those voices are so often on accident. Oh my God, the amount of times people have come to me like, "Hey, I remember this one time you told me this thing," and I'm like, "Oh Christ! Like, what in the world is this gonna be?" And usually it's something that was like off the cuff, just wildly. So, anyways, the point is like the intention behind the words that you hear and that resonate in your head were probably not as meaningful as they were meant, or they're probably more meaningful than the speaker meant them to be. But we let it, we fixate on those things and think, oh, this is a thing. I gotta get over this, or I can't do this because of whatever.
Yeah. Having grace for stuff. We were talking about being polished before and recognizing that even when we're in like perceived leadership roles, we're human. And so we do speak off the cuff. I remember a therapist once telling me that they had told a client, whatever. And we're like, oh God, like I'm not allowed to just be like, whatever to my therapy clients. But I was like, I mean, you're human. At least you just gotta name it and be like, I kind of say some things sometimes, but we also have to go back around and own it.
For sure. Also true. And I think you said something about the imposter syndrome being, I think it can be a tool. Mm-hmm. I felt that way for a very long time, and I fought very hard to overcome that feeling through knowledge, like through the acquisition of knowledge in my craft, to say, okay, well, if I don't feel like I'm qualified to coach people, then I better go find some shit. I'm going to keep doing it. It doesn't mean I think people use that as such a gate, like it's a gatekeeper for them. Like they're not going to cross the thing until they have this. I think you can do both. I think you can sign up for the thing knowing that you're going to have to prepare. Well, often people do this with races. Like, I'm going to sign up for this marathon. Well, you can't do it right now, but you better prepare for it on the way in. And I think that's a very comparable thing for sign up, say yes, but then get your ass as ready as you possibly can, and then do the thing.
And I think about what you were saying before about like we were kind of talking about like not knowing, we don't know, and we think we have, what's it called? The Kruger or something?
Dunning-Kruger. Yeah. I only know the exact name because I talked about it this week. So I don't just keep that in my brain.
Yeah. And so how like if we have imposter syndrome, then we can say like, okay, we want to get this information to ask ourselves, like, what would make us not feel like an imposter? Mm-hmm. Will we always be an imposter? That's a first sign that it's imposter syndrome, if you don't see the solution. And then like, what is inauthentic about that? Where do you feel inauthentic about what what snake oil you're selling? Like, how are you actually a charlatan? Analyzing like what's the truth around that. And I find it's kind of like how they say like a narcissist never asks whether or not they're a narcissist. An imposter syndrome person being like, I feel like an imposter, is being self-reflective.
Huh.
So they're probably not an imposter.
Right.
The real imposters are never asking that fucking question.
Right.
They're like both insecure and arrogant at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
That's and so like when we feel that sort of like, God, should I even be doing this? And that happens to me when, I'm writing memoir right now, and I'll sit there and I know it'll happen today when I sit down and work on another chapter. I'll be like, does this story even matter? Like, who the fuck am I to be telling this story? And then questioning like, well, wait a second, what's my intention? Is the story good? And having like a realistic conversation and being like, well, what would make me not an imposter? I mean, how can you be an imposter when you're writing memoir? It's your story.
How many personalities do you have? I don't know.
Well, there is that one. That's why this book's going to be so good.
Choose your own adventure. Kind of pick this if you choose this.
Yeah.
I like that. All right.
Yeah. So I think that is a piece, and why people don't want to come on to the podcast too is like, I am, what do I have to say? And you're like, you're the expert in you. And that is interesting.
It is. And it's also not their job. If you're listening, it's not like, that's my job. I'm supposed to make you feel interesting and have it. So if you feel like at the end of it, which nobody ever has, no one's been like, oh my God, that sucked, then it's my fault. And we won't put it out there. But yeah, if I have you on here, it's not because I'm like, oh, this will be great to rake them over the coals publicly for a while and see we'll just air out how dry and boring they are. So, but I think it's the same, like what you had alluded to a second ago about the process of writing, is that you do it anyway. Mm-hmm. You have those thoughts. You have that, like I don't know how some days I imagine they're louder than others. Some days I bet they're not there at all. Mm-hmm. You fucking do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
I've been
difference.
reading a lot about flow state and how you set it up an environment for
Yeah.
flow state, which has been really interesting and conducive to the writing process. Turning off all the external things and just like keep like routine going back into the place and letting your brain recognize that this is it. When in the War of Art, I think it was in that book, he's talking about discussing with somebody famous. I don't think it was Hemingway. Might have been George Bernard Shaw. I can't remember. Anyway, he was talking to an author and was like, well, how do you get creative? How do you create this environment for creativity? And he said, well, I find it works best if I just show up at my desk at 9 o'clock every day.
Yeah.
Like, he's
Yeah.
like, you just go do the thing.
That's it.
And some days you really tap into it, and other days you're just kind of like grinding through editing. Nobody is magically, unless you're mentally ill, probably in a manic phase of bipolar. Sorry if that's not a PC thing to say, but you're not like creative all the time.
Right.
And that's okay.
I think that's the lesson I kind of want everyone, or I definitely want everyone to hear, is that it's not about your data on the aura. It's not about that. Like, how you feel does not dictate what you get to do that day. If you truly want to do something, like if you really want to get really good at the mandolin, there's not a choice. You don't get to play when you want to play. Mm-hmm. But it also doesn't mean that you have to expect greatness out of yourself every time you practice. Mm-hmm. That's why they call it practice. You know, the writing is a practice. You show up. Some days, like I said, it just flows out of me. I don't know that I ever hit delete, and I hit send, and it's pretty good. Other days I sit there and hope that my random bashing my head against the keyboard will create something that's worth not being embarrassed about, and send it anyway. Mm-hmm. But through the process of it, there's less of those banging my head against the keyboard days and a lot more of the like, oh, sweet, this thought or experience conjured its way into my head, and I already know. I have to sit down right now and type out what I was thinking.
That consistency runs really true for me too. Is like, I know I have to produce a good column once a week. And so it doesn't mean, even though my due date is Monday, it doesn't mean that on Monday I'm going to be able to sit down and like hammer out some fucking brilliance. So you have this reality in your head that when you tap into it, like if Charlie says something really silly, and I go, it might be like a Wednesday afternoon, and he comes home and says, man, I have some doozies lined up. He says a thing, and I go, what did you just say? And he's like,
shit.
There it goes. And I am like, taking notes. And then even if I don't have the time to write about it then, it's in my notes. And so like by Monday or another time when I have capacity, I'm like, there's my thread.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to follow. Keeping those lists are really helpful for me.
I completely agree. I'm wondering if there's a way to spin that around to the same vein of the like fitness self-improvement kind of thing. Because I think that inspiration comes at random times. And it's through again, whether it's a fitness or nutrition or self-improvement, you're going to be inspired perhaps at the wrong time, but you need to bring that back around and channel it at the right time. Because same. I'll get inspired at 10 o'clock at night. And if I'll get so jacked up, I won't sleep at all. So I have to postpone it till the morning. Mm-hmm. But that's the appropriate time to get up and do it. So, but I might not feel that way in the morning. I just have to like kind of re-get myself into that state.
Right. It's that combination of inspiration and discipline.
Yes.
To create a certain level of stamina and knowing like, wow, that's in me. I try to remind writers all the time because at retreats, and we'll talk about the retreat that's coming up soon too. At retreats, people create these incredible things and they're so surprised of themselves. You know, they're being fed. It's all about writing. They're hanging out with all these creative people. Everybody's wearing fucking linen and lycra. It's just a writer's haven. And all of a sudden they're just like spitting out these things that they didn't know were in them. And they're like, holy shit, I am a writer. And so one of the skills about taking that back home is remembering that is in you.
Yes.
It is in you. And sometimes it pops out at 10 o'clock at night and you have to be like, don't have the capacity to write about this. And reminding ourselves like when, like writing it down or pinning it somewhere and knowing that we can tap back into that. We can tap into like what's within us if we take the space to do it. And one of the things that's been really helpful for me is knowing that mornings are my best time and blocking it out. Like people ask me for 10 o'clock coffees because they all think I'm fun employed. And I'm like, no, that my brain works best in the morning.
Yeah.
And like that is my time to be writing. If you want to talk about politics or something, then that's going to be after 3 in the afternoon. And just holding those places kind of sacred for yourself.
Totally. And that's therein lies the discipline thing and the fun employment. I've not heard that for some reason, but that's a fantastic
Unemployed.
term. Yeah. But it's the same as though, you make the transition from your career, a steady career, to a passion. Like you are now, unfortunately, you have to have the discipline to not be fun. Like you get up, you might not even know what the hell you're doing that day, but you get up and you start your damn work day at some point, and then you work. And that's what, again, it's the war. That is, I think, a lot of the messaging in the War of Art is like, this is not a do things at the time of inspiration. It's just, this is on my calendar and now it's happening.
And the inspiration will come.
Yeah. But if you let yourself, oh, sweet. Like you're right. That's just an appointment with myself. And I'll go do whatever. And I'll get back to my job. Like the new thing that you're trying to embark upon will never see its full potential.
And I do talk about like laundry writing where like I'm just stuck. So I have to go do chores until something comes. Or honestly, speaking of fitness, the best thing when I'm stuck is to go for a walk or a run and just get some endorphins going. And then all of a sudden it happens. And in minutes, I'll be like taking notes into my phone and being like, oh, this is what you're going to write about today. Or whatever's necessary. That's where I can find it if I'm really stuck. The gym is a great place for me to have it. The gym is nice because it takes my brain away from overthinking. It's like a true break. You go and you like socialize a little bit, you turn on some rock and roll, or somebody does, and then you blow up your adrenals for 20 minutes. Yesterday, actually, this is probably what I'll write about in my column next week, is the little colored cones came out. And I was like, I was working out with Cass, and I was like, we're going to take it easy, right? It's Thursday. It's been a long week. And she was like, yeah, we'll take it easy. Team workout. And the colored cones came out. And I was like, shit.
Oh, boy.
I cannot be held responsible. I'm like a kid in gym class. You bring out the colored cones.
And some dodgeballs, maybe. Like, we're going.
Yeah. Like that's all there was. There was no taking it easy, but it was really great. My brain was like gassed, and I came home and had a super productive morning after that.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is I want to ask this question it's not really in a chain of this current conversation. So do you think that writing helps people cope with life, whether they publicize it or whether they don't? Like, do you feel like the ability to frame a story about a shitty experience I'm asking a very leading question here, but like, do you find that to be true?
For some people, yes. Some people are word processors. Others are not. I think there is an argument to be made that we are all word processors. We just haven't learned how to tap into it. I love that you journal. I have volumes. I'll show you one of my journals. I have volumes and volumes of journals.
Wow.
Yeah. Every day I get up and write. And it's like I'm complaining about my husband. I'm talking about how I fucked up a chicken recipe, or how my kid tried to fail out of their first semester in college. Or, it's just like blah out there.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I say something smart. I'm listening to David Sedaris's journals right now it's called A Carnival of Snackery. And if anyone needs to laugh their ass off and just have some joy in their life, I highly recommend listening to the Audible book of it. It's a great read, but he reads it along with, I think, Tracy Ullman.
Got it.
And
nice.
God, he's got way more interesting friends than I have. They're all sort of horrible people, but they're really funny artist types. And that you can hear him, he's doing some processing, but he's also like very observant of the world. And I think like about how I use journaling to process my day. Sometimes it's so that I don't burden the people in my world with those boring stories. Like, how much am I going to talk? How often am I going to talk about the stupid thing my husband said, or that I'm mad that my kid is not taking advantage of their privilege? This parenting stuff it's quite right. And being able to like come to an awareness of myself through the writing, and then distilling my thought process so that when I do start to speak to others, or when I do want to take action, that there's some sort of formula behind it.
Yeah.
It's not just reactivity at that point. Now I'm able to have like a response versus a reaction. So I love writing for that. I love writing for people who are processing trauma.
Yeah.
A lot of the retreats that I lead, because I'm trauma informed, and a lot of people have trauma stories to write about. Not everyone is writing that stuff, but a lot of people are. There's so much healing in just being able to process that through fiction or nonfiction. I'm curious for you, like, why do you write all the time? You said some things just have to come out.
Yeah, I think it's either At this point, for me, it's recognizing this. This makes me cringe to say it, but my status in the world is like a leader, and that the processing the vulnerabilities of life that I'm leading. Because a lot of people do look up at me, and to realize, like, I've got one I will write in about 2 or 3 weeks. I have a picture of myself. It's my own little like bathroom selfie of like, oh, cool. Like this is, I look really good. And I did. I had stopped drinking for a while. I worked out twice a day. I was a madman for like 8 weeks. And I was,
ab shots.
oh, I was fucking shredded. Yeah, I look so good. And it wasn't like I have a handful of those just like as a progress things.
Yeah.
And I looked at this picture recently and I was like, son of a bitch. Like, I don't look like that at all. Like, this is, and it kind of stunk. Like, I was like, and it really ate at me for a bit. Even with all the things, like, I'm so immersed in this world. Like, I know why it happened. I know how it happened. I know whatever. And it still just kind of bothered me. And I think, A, it's a little bit of my own processing of it. But B, like, this is, I think, why I asked the question of, like, this helps me process because I can give it to others and say, hey, I know how you feel. Like, you're looking at that picture of yourself back in high school. You had no responsibilities. You had, like, the perfect balance of hormones. Everything was amazing. Like, please, you cannot fixate on that, for one. Like, let's be realistic with where you are right now. But also, for two, like, the cost of being lean is really high. Like, the cost of, like, excessive leanness is very high. For I was working out probably 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, not drinking, watching my intake, tracking everything. Like, I went ham.
You had no friends because you were fucking intolerable.
Yeah, exactly. And so that moment in time, I look awesome. Like, for me, I look really awesome. Not worth it. And it's not like, I think people fixate on this thing because that picture is one moment in their existence that they don't remember. Oh, I was massively depressed at the time. Like, I was working out because I was like cripplingly depressed at the time. And the way I could find dopamine was fitness, like hard effort. And so my point was like, yeah, I look awesome. Would I go back to that moment in time? Probably not. And I think it's important for people to realize that and that you can't have it all. And so my point with, you asked me why I write, that's a lot of the reason is I think that my experience, even in the place that I am, is very, I think there's vulnerability to it that is valuable for people to hear and read and understand.
And to get clear on your own position in that. It's interesting because in those physical senses, we get this like bizarre narcissism, but it's for external improve.
Totally.
What a strange thing. The writing piece into like acknowledging where we are as leaders also takes a level of confidence balanced with humility.
Yep.
And one of those things, I step into that as a teacher where I'm like, God, like I don't. So like in this writing retreat that I have coming up, I hired this incredible legend of a woman from San Francisco. She's got an MFA. She specializes in professional development. Like she is fucking legit. And I was like writing little flyers this week and I was trying to decide whether to put MFA on the end of her name because I don't have MFA on the end of my name. And I was like, then people are going to like, I don't have like, who the hell am I? But if you asked any of my clients, they would be like, you're a fucking rock star. Yep. And so finding my place in this, it's not a hierarchy, but like in the path of like, one of the things that's really helpful for me is having good mentorship and being like, okay, I'm working at improving and I'm lifting people up with me at the same time.
Yes.
That has really helped and is part of my writing process and being able to sit, or I would say my journaling process, sitting and exploring that and being realistic about where do I need to develop so I can continue to serve other people's journeys. Yeah,
I think to piggyback on what you just said, as far as my writing, it's helping people not feel as crazy as I think most people feel. I work with so many leaders aside from myself. So I can, I'm very, as I said before, I can explicitly talk about myself because I don't have to get permission. Like, here we are. Like, I can tell you about my experience. Like, there's no worry about me. Someone would be like, hey, that's me. But the other side is I talk to so many leaders, and that's the majority of my work is with people in those positions who are like, I don't know why anybody's following me. Like, this is weird. Like, I'm going to blow this. I'm for sure. I've created this airplane that everybody's getting on. I told them we're going here, but it's going to crash. And that's one instance of that. But all the other little nuances and thought processes and conversations that I have throughout the week, I can try and bring those out to the world, knowing that I only get to talk to one person at a time. So hopefully anybody else in those situations realize like, holy shit, like, okay, cool. Like I can keep going because I hear how that, I know what that feels like. Okay, cool. Sweet. So
that's another argument for writing is that it allows you to speak to more than one person at a time if
Totally.
you're disseminating your knowledge, whether it's in Substack or newsletters or your group emails or whatever. And that's one of the things that was part of my separation from the clinical world, was like I really had an impact on people's lives, and it was one at a time. And while they would probably go and influence their families or their friends to some extent, I also felt like I needed a different level of spread for some of the other messages that I feel compelled to share. And a lot of those are vulnerable. I mean, when you write about yourself for a living, you better be willing to crack some stuff open.
Just to echo that other part, though, is that we've been talking about as an undertone for the whole thing, is most people don't feel like their conversations are worthwhile of hearing, or their advice. They don't have anything worthwhile to say to the rest of the world. But I think that everybody has something meaningful that they could. Maybe not everybody. I can think of a few that I would prefer didn't, but that they have something to share. They have experiences that are going to relate to somebody who will then say, oh shit, they did it. I can do it. Or they're worried about that. Oh shit, I'm worried about that too. They did it anyway. Cool. They're more like, whatever. I don't know. It's awesome.
Yeah. You don't really have any, like, those people that I'm like, oh, they don't have anything to share. Maybe it's that I don't want to give them platform.
That's what I meant. Yeah. That's more what I meant.
Start asking them questions. They often have the most fascinating stories. Like, how does somebody get to that point?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I think that story is more connective. I want to talk before we have to get off here about the retreat that I'm going to lead here in Sandpoint, because it comes back to like uplifting voices. So I created, I do a ton of nonprofit work, and the Sandpoint Alliance for Equality is one of the nonprofits that I work on. And we have been talking about like, how do we uplift marginalized voices, whatever those voices are. So it doesn't have to be, obviously they're an LGBTQ forward organization, BIPOC, but really equal rights for everyone. Equal rights apply to that. It's everyone.
Yep. In the name.
And so how do we get people to share their stories, whether they're marginalized because of poverty or because of skin color or sexual orientation? Like, all stories make a difference in lives. And I've created the tagline for it that where stories become catalysts of change. And that's sort of how I was trying to invite people in, is that like through connectivity, maybe you don't want to go and become politically active. Maybe you're afraid to tell your story to a larger group, or you have a really good story, but you don't know how to tell it. And so this retreat is particularly focused around taking writers of any level and bringing them in and teaching them, one, how to develop their craft and frame a story that is, in a Western sense, has arc and meaning, or is a vignette that is presentable. And then also how to get that out there in a successful way, so that like stories are great in our journaling sense, and that can be wonderful and very healing for some writers. But what I'm hearing more and more, and I think it is a testament if we look at self-publishing statistics, is that people are like, I do have a story, I don't quite know how to tell it, and then I don't know how to get it out there. And so this retreat will happen in October. It's a week long here in Sandpoint, and there is a Saturday workshop series. So anybody can come, even if they work all week, at least they can come to the Saturday workshop series, where we're actually having like songwriting and art and words and poetry workshop with various different teachers. And then my colleague Lizette Wainser, that I was telling you about from San Francisco, who's a legend, is coming for professional development for people. So she does like submissions boot camp. Like, how do you go and get your stuff out there? What does that look like? How do you write a book proposal? What does that look like, if that's the thing that you want to do? Yep. And really just enabling anyone who has a story to be able to tell it professionally. And then if they want to disseminate it, to disseminate it. And I'm really excited about it because I've wanted to bring a retreat to Sandpoint forever. Like, we're a cool mountain town.
Yeah.
And now it'll happen every year here.
That's awesome. How do people, so you just did a great overview, but what's the way they can see more about that? I'll put a link in the show notes.
I should probably say those things, speaking of getting things out there. So we called it the Selkirk Mountain Retreat. We're on Instagram now at Selkirk Mountain Writing Retreat, and then selkirkmountainretreat.com. We decided not to always call it Writing Retreat because we're going to bring in more art and variety as the years follow and kind of keep growing it. It'll be up at Talus Rock, which is cool because if you're local, you don't have to stay there, or we can do van camping and camping if people want to stay there. You can find us online. You can find it via my website, but probably the easiest, because I didn't put my name in here, so you can't see how to spell it. It's the hardest to spell name.
I'll have it on there. Yeah, I'll have it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, like, uplifting voices right now, I feel like is really like art is activism. And whether
Yeah.
that activism is in us healing as individuals or in us connecting or in us raging at our current mayor in the reader, whatever that activism looks like, words are a really powerful way to approach it.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I think the story, I think words, I think human experience, for all the attention that AI is getting, like you can't automate a hug and the personality and perspective, and like the shit's like what's going to keep us, I don't know, optimistically together as a society to realize we can come together and share our experiences and understand each other better. And I don't know. I think it's
And
important.
heal.
Heal for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's going to be like more and more important as we survive the challenges of the current administration and what that's doing to our country. But regardless of which side you are on that, if there has to be sides, like it's divisive for the country. And so like, how are we going to navigate and come together through that so that our path forward is more united?
Yeah.
And story, to me, story is the answer.
Yeah. Michael Welp's doing some cool stuff with that too. Who he was on the,
Are you going to
you know
have
Michael
him on
Welp.
to talk about his difficult conversations workshops?
I should. He was on before. We talked. We kind of we introed what he does, but no, I have not had. I should do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the
he's
same thing.
nice.
He just needs to get more people willing to be vulnerable and explore their that there may be an alternative or understand how they got to their own. And but again, through story and through experience, like nobody was born. Nobody, hopefully, has entrenched their views from the womb until now. Like it's through their experiences that they can understand and understand each other's experiences, how they got there too, through story.
And knowing that it's never like very seldom is it just a straight line. And I
Right.
think that that is really encouraging to people, whatever their path is. Like if they want to be a writer or a leader or a coach or whatever it is that they want to do, that the path is going to be a little bumpy. And having people in leadership positions be like, yeah, it is. And trust me, I didn't just land here.
Yeah.
Kenny wasn't anointed at birth.
Nope.
Well, maybe you were, but it meant something else.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true. That's a whole other story. But yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. This was great. We did what, an hour and 15. So
Yeah, it was a long
Good for
one. We're
us.
going to have to start having disclaimers or editing stuff out.
I think it's great. I know we bumped through your writing time, but this was a good, I think we're both fired up because this is our
Yeah, now we're going to
creativity
go
time.
write. I don't know what your day looks like, but I got a chapter to crank out.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, cool. Thanks very much as always. And
It's my pleasure, as
I'll
always.
see you soon. Thank you for listening. I hope that was good to listen to, enjoyable to listen to. I hope you were motivated to tell your own story because, again, it can help somebody else who could be in your situation or have had the same experience that you have or are having and realize that they can too. In addition to that, if you want some more help on telling your story, the retreat that Ammi spoke of is, you can find more information at Selkirk Mountain Retreat, as well as on the Instagram for the same title. And if you are ready to rewrite your story or start a new chapter in your story, and you are not currently at Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning or working with one of our coaches, send me an email, kenny@sandpointstrength.com, and we'll help you do that. We'll help you through the tough times, through the hurdles, through all the stuff that like AI or programs online or just going to the gym on your own. That stuff is hard to do because you're not able to out your own struggles, frustrations, and challenges to somebody who's been there or who has helped somebody else who's been there and just gets it. So yeah, kenny@sandpointstrength.com. See you.